Hello, I am Nish and welcome to the Get Perspective Showcase class. If you'd like to sketch cars like this in a more realistic format, or aircrafts for the matter of fact, to make it look like it's floating, flying, or in motion, trains to show just the grandiosity as well as the proportion of the way things work, or even sceneries to show beautiful picturesque landscapes, and interiors to maybe help you design the house of your dreams, this is the class that you come to. In order for us to even get to this point, we need to understand our basics of the one-point perspective to then be able to apply the two-point perspective. We can also do things like letters in 3 dimensions, but we always often start with simple shapes and then making them more complex. But before we even get to this point, we got to understand the concept of 3-dimensional shapes, and finally the concept of application of your basics, textures, and line weights. The basics, textures, and line weights will be taken care of in our Go Sketch class. A short introduction into them again as an understanding would be introduced into the Get Perspective program. But at the end of it, all this will help you create really spectacular sketches in the matter of minutes. So before we begin, what I need you to have is just an A4 or a letter size paper, a pen, or a pencil. Any pencil will do. NHB is appreciated. To start with the 1 point, we need to understand a few things. With the 1 point, we have what is called a horizon line, and from this horizon line is where everything else will be created from a certain point. So for example here, if I wanted to ever set a scene, I'd always start with a point towards the center. Sometimes in certain cases, like for example with let's say the train, it would start here at the side. What you got to do next is whatever shape you decide to have, be it a box for example, you just got to connect the two back to this point and create your shape and the size as you wish. I'll be teaching this to you in detail for not only simple shapes but also to create complex shapes using the same system. Well, the system can be used to define the interior of a space. So if I just drew this here, I just drew this here, I drew this here, I drew this here, drew this line here, maybe added this down here, do this here, do this here. Voila. You have an interior space now, ready to roll, with a line that's slightly off, but yeah, there you go. So this is the 1 point perspective. With this, you can create basic shapes, complex shapes, or even flying shapes like this. And with this system too, you'd also be able to create living spaces like this, as well as landscape spaces like this. It all started here at this point and then grew into whatever it's out to be. The perspective is the way the human eye looks at paper. and that is what we will teach you. When I mean that the human eye looks at paper, basically what I mean to say is that the human eye looks at the world, and that we try to apply it to paper in order for it to look like you're looking at a scene that is jumped right out of a photograph. Once we are through with understanding what the one perspective is, we move into what is called the two-point perspective, which again uses the concept of a horizon line and 2 points. In this regard, let's say we want to draw something in this line. Let's say we want to draw a cube. At start of the line, connect points here, connect points here, connect, connect, and do the same. Connect, connect, and just mark the points. As close as possible. And there you have it. Doing this freehand is quite the work, but at the end of it, you end up getting something that looks in perspective and three-dimension almost sooner. This will allow you to build landscapes, cityscapes, as well as just objects on their own. By cityscapes, to give you an example, let's say I want a building here. All I need to do is again connect the spots, figure out my proportion of where I want the building to be, and just connect the rest of the lines. And there you go. We have a second building. We can also do the lines of street views in this regard. Let's say I want the street corner to be here. Draw this. Like that. And there you have it, our very own little street corner. We can use this system to continue building up details that will help you flush out what would it look like from a realistic standpoint. You can use this technique for either defining how your designs would look like in perspective. You could also use it to try to figure out if you are interested in, let's say, interior design, or if you're interested in urban design. This is where this would come to use. Even when you want to do the likes of, let's say, drawing aircrafts, like I had mentioned earlier, like this. This aircraft too has used 2 points, one on each side, and then I have created this whole thing out, which is why it looks like it is floating, as well as it looks like it is in scale. So another thing that we teach in this are proportions, in order to understand how large the wing needs to be with relation to the body in order for it to look almost real. So these are some of the things we teach in the perspective class. And towards the end, we hope that you would learn how to sketch like this, or even better. So check out our Get Perspective class. Details are down below. You can also reach out to the representatives who have reached out to you with this regard and have them introduce you to the Get Perspective class. Join us today. I look forward to seeing you all.